Woo! Welcome, y'all! Hey! That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 51 for Tuesday, June 2nd, 2016. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace, joined as always in the PETM Podcast studio by Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's happening, man?
Welcome to the birthday of the fastest growing podcast on the internet.
That's right.
It's a treat for y'all, and it's a treat for us.
Absolutely, and you can hear that birthday song just wailing in the background. That thing was pretty sweet. Found it on YouTube. Hopefully they don't sue us or whatever for playing their stuff.
Yeah, somebody's lead stroke on the birthday song there.
Yeah. Well, it's birthday episode, man. What's your birthday drinking?
I'm birthday drinking some of your Jefferson and a little bit of water. I didn't want to run you out of Jefferson.
Oh, it's all good. I mean, you brought it over to my place, so more yours than mine at that point. I have a Miller Lite right here, and on deck, Sweetwater IPA. That's a usual for us, but I've got a little story around that.
Uh-oh.
I had my family over last 2 weekends ago, and my uncle brought over a 12-pack Sweetwater IPA, and he said, I'd been listening to your podcast, and I brought over that. So shout out to Chip and Donna, my aunt and uncle, or my uncle and aunt, Chip and Donna, and thanks for listening. Thanks for bringing over the Sweetwater IPA.
Well, how about that? That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, so it's time for some kickbacks from the local brewery here, huh?
Well, Sweetwater's already owes us an advertising fee for sure.
That's right.
As well as a couple of other local breweries.
Man, I can't believe it's been 1 year since we've done this thing.
I'm surprised we're still doing it. I mean, this is what we expected in a sense.
What's the last thing we've done for a whole year other than drink beer?
Well, other than go to races or go to football games, I don't know that there is. Well, we've done the Roswell Beer Festival 3 years in a row.
That's true. I wanted to give the Posse, the PETM Posse here, a little bit of a birthday present, quote-unquote, if you will. Just something funny, a little throwback for us to our first episode together.
Are you going to drop in?
I'm just going to drop in just the very beginning of it. Just
that's awesome.
It's really funny. So y'all ready? Here we go.
Welcome, y'all. This is Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace, no relation, and I'm here with Pre-game engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's happening, Sherwin?
Everything going, baby.
That was the very beginning of PETM. It was actually episode 2 because you had kind of put out this 5-minute just sort of thing for PETM 1, as we're calling it. But on our first episode together, that was funny. That was recorded on a potato.
It was a poop show. I was talking into a potato.
And we had no clue what we were doing. No clue how to talk, how to sit here and I don't know, just talk to each other.
How do you do a radio show when you've never done a radio show?
Right. Well, you do it just like that. And anybody out there that's wanting to get started on podcasts, I mean, that's just how you do it right there. You just start recording yourself. You're not going to be great to start with, and only about 3 people are going to listen. And then next thing you know, the Posse is born a year later.
Well, that's the crazy thing about doing podcasts is if you listen to a bunch of them like we do, every host says, "Look, you're gonna suck."
Yeah,
just like the musicians say to songwriters, like your first songs are gonna suck, but you learn from it.
Yep,
and you go and you keep going and you keep doing it, and eventually you write a good song. Eventually, you do a good radio show.
Yep.
Every now and again, you're gonna have a blip. But,
it ain't like we're professionals by any means.
51 episodes in, 52 weeks in. We're a little bit better than we were a year ago.
I'd say so. So thank you to the entire PETM Posse for sticking in with us for a year and celebrate happy birthday with us. Raise them glasses up. Cheers to the PETM Posse. Cheers to the PETM Podcast. Thank you, everybody, for jumping on.
Cheers in studio. Cheers to all y'all listening. And cheers to everybody.
We'll get started like we do a lot of times. I had to take a sip there. Kenny Smith in that 24K PETM Racing podcast car. No race last week, but it looks like we're going to be on the track this weekend. Might have a few Periscope issues, but we'll get the updates for you and let you know how that PETM podcast car is doing out there, Lee County Speedway, Iowa. So looking forward to that this weekend. Next thing on the list, number 51. So this is episode 51.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Did you bring something to the table here? Because I got something, too, I maybe didn't tell you about.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I'll start with, Justin Allgaier ran 75 races.
For Harry Scott.
Yeah, for Harry Scott. in that number 51. That's all I was going to say about Allgaier. If you got more, go for it.
Oh, I got a ton more.
Go for it.
I got Rowdy Burns in the Exxon number 51 from Days of Thunder, my favorite racing movie.
Hello. I think that's the second Days of Thunder number thing that we've done.
Yeah, we might have done one at 46 for Cole Trickle.
All right, Dick Trickle. I said Dick Trickle. That's funny.
That'll happen. And rest in peace, sir.
Yes, absolutely. My big top hat off to him. No, the other number 51, Gober Sosby or Suzaby or something like that, had the nickname Wild Engine. I'm not. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but
probably not anymore. But in reference to the person, it's probably okay.
Yeah, he had 2 wins in 56 races. He usually drove the number 50, but this is number 51. But he actually won 2 races in the number 51 car, and those are the only 2 wins in the number 51 car ever. So
wow.
He did that in 1952 and 1954. He was born in Dawson County, Georgia, died in 1996 at the age of 80, and the cause of death was listed as an agricultural accident.
Dude was driving the tractor.
Yep, dude was driving the tractor.
In Dawson County, which spawned, obviously, the Elliots, who were so proud and fond of.
Yeah, it's cool stuff about death by combine I'm seeing on the from the Posse right front tire. What's happening, man? But yeah, so who knows there? But man, another way. You know what? 80 years old, out on your tractor. That's the way to go. You know.
Well, yeah. I mean, be going hard at 80. Be going hard.
Yep.
If you can still go hard at 80, you're winning the contest most of the time.
And his name was Gober. That's a great grandpa name if there ever was.
Good. My grandpa's name was Grable. I don't know if that's good as Gober.
Very nice. Mine was John. And Wiley was the other one. So
yeah, Grable and Alice. And there was a Melvin in there somewhere, too.
Okay. So let's go on to what we just had this last weekend, the biggest weekend in racing. And I'm going to start it off with a little mistake. Oh, man. Yep, that leg. I couldn't remember Nico Rosberg's name in the last podcast. I was just off completely. I was like, same dude's won the first 6 races. It was I don't remember his name. The most
you ever tried to spell it?
I tried right here on my little screen here, but no, I haven't.
I did somebody's Twitter contest on guessing all 3 winners, and I spelled it Rossburg. And that was like 7 letters off.
Oh, well.
It's Rosberg, Nico Rosberg.
So in my show notes, I wrote, we did have the F1 Monaco parade. So that happened.
The first half hour was interesting because of the wet condition.
Yep.
And having to transition from rain tires to slicks.
Yeah.
And some even used the intermediate tire, I think, for a little bit.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton takes a win after passing somebody during pit stops because I can't remember who the leader was that came in, but he came in and they didn't have tires ready for him. Like,
yes,
what? You've spent $13 million on this car.
Oh, that was Kimi Räikkönen, wasn't it?
Was it Räikkönen? I don't remember.
Who's the other Ferrari driver? Red Bull Ferrari. It was a Red Bull Ferrari driver.
Okay. We're not going to remember right
here.
Yeah,
we don't care enough to do it, y'all. That's the thing. We're here for a joke on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, but they didn't have tires. I mean,
no, I watched
come on,
it,
man.
And I don't know if we'll get into this later. I'll just say,
go for it.
I got live before 9:00 a.m. And I watched that, and it was like, are you kidding? They called him in, and he literally sat there for 10 seconds before anybody showed up with tires, which is like 2x.
Yeah, dudes are sitting around taking a smoke break.
The total thing is supposed to take, like. I mean, it's
supposed to be 3-4 seconds.
Yeah, it's 2.6. I think is like if you're busting off a Joe Gibbs pit stop like an 11.2 for Formula One, it's 2.6.
Yeah, and
because they don't fuel. By the way, I didn't know that until this weekend.
Right, I didn't either.
The entire fuel load for the entire race.
Yep, I didn't know that either. I thought they did the pressurized thing like Indy does, but
I don't know how recent that is, but definitely somebody was in the pits eating ice cream.
Eating ice
You're
cream,
dead right.
Eating their sandwich, whatever it is. So yeah, I mean, I didn't actually get a chance to watch it, but I watched a lot of the replay at the end. But then that gets us over to the 100th running of the Indy 500, which. The pomp and circumstance beforehand was so neat.
That was 350,000 people.
Yeah, Yeah, biggest party on Earth. This was a stat that killed me. There's 350 million people in the U.S., 350,000 at that track. 1 in every 1,000 people in the United States was at that track that day.
Right.
That's cool.
Most of us know 1,000 people.
Yeah.
We probably couldn't
One
put
way or
them
another.
all down on a piece of paper,
Yeah.
but most of us know 1,000 different people that we recognize by face and name.
Yeah.
Well, one of those sons of guns was at that race.
That's crazy.
With odds.
You know what's funny? I know several people who went to the race, so there we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. All the stuff they did beforehand, all the pre-race stuff, I mean, they just nailed it over and over and over again. Maybe with the exception of the drivers start your engines thing, but that's sort of the tradition that they have with that family or whatever. So, whatever. They didn't have that old woman doing it, so that's all right.
Yeah, you have to be careful when you have so much history built up that you don't create a situation where you get a bummer moment just because you're trying to represent history.
Yeah, and doing. The
I don't
tradition.
think they did though. I think it basically worked
It was
out.
fine. So
I put it on mute during my home Indiana or whatever that was because I'm a jerk.
good for you. So ended up, I thought it was a great race. It was fun to watch. I was out in the lake for parts of it and back in and watching 10, 20, 30 laps at a time. Watch the last, 50 laps or so. And I had a good time watching it.
I thought it was a great race. I think the end probably threw people for a loop they weren't expecting because everybody was punching on the calculators.
Yep.
But as usual, and I say usual, as in the last 3 or 4 years, that race was awesome. I mean, the way the cars raced each other, you had no further proof of how hard those things are to drive than Juan Pablo get loose and destroy his car.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that was early on. I was still watching the beginning of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was really cool. And like you said, it's become more and more and more compelling. I know this is the 100th running, so they were doing all kinds of, like I said, pomp and circumstance and all the hoo-ha and all that. But they have had a very good product the last few years. And now, look at it today, they just brought in 350,000 people. I mean, NASCAR can't get 100,000 at that track right now.
No, they can't get 50.
Yeah,
and that's part of it. I think the 100-year anniversary thing was huge. Mm-hmm. So that brought in all of the sentiment. I think what we've seen is travel expenses are down right now compared to some of the previous years. Another thing is,
what is it?
I lost my train of thought.
It's all right. You
Yeah,
got the Viking hat on.
They had 3 years of momentum of good races.
Yep, exactly.
Fun, good races. You had an American win the pole after almost dying
last year.
Damn near bled out on the track, tore his femoral artery. That's nuts.
That's a bad
We
one.
talked about that last week, but it bears mentioning again because I know I was rooting for Hinchcliffe. I mean, I'm rooting for anybody really in that race.
Sure.
Like, I'm rooting for
Sure.
Castroneves to get number 4 and be like the 5th guy to do that.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for Hinchcliffe front and center, but Alexander Rossi, American rookie.
Yep. Might as
wins?
well.
How
Might as well.
freaking cool
I
is
just got
that?
goosebumps on that.
Yeah.
On Memorial Day weekend.
I freaked out.
America.
I mean, I think we all kind of looked at it 2 different ways. There's a couple different outlets that I read or heard that summed it up in different ways that kind of they had the Venn diagram. You had the 3 circles of the Venn diagram sort of overlap, and there's that purple section in the middle. In that, the end result was really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a fuel mileage race isn't the best way to end what is supposed to be the great American race.
Yep.
But the end result is still really cool.
It was really cool, and it's not one of those. Indy 500 is not a fuel mileage race typically, So it ain't like,
Nah.
yeah. So it ain't like this is every year we're just seeing who's run out of the gas last. This was a little bit different. I like it in NASCAR. I mean, I've said it before. We've said it before on the podcast. I don't mind fuel mileage as long as some people actually lose at it. We saw so many people, there's a fuel mileage, he's down to his last whatever, and he goes across the stripe, and then he does a parade lap, and then he does a burnout, and then he drives a victory lane, and then they siphon off another gallon of gas from him, and you're going, this wasn't a fuel mileage race.
Right.
So,
You're left to wonder if what you're hearing on your television or your radio is bullspit or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, well, nobody can go 36 laps that Alexander Rossi did. Well, obviously somebody could.
Yeah.
Because he did.
And he was ahead by over half a lap, and that's what made it happen, was that they say he was pushing, going out of the corner, and then just coast the entire backstretch, and then back in.
Yeah, he was like 11 seconds
again.
off the pace or something.
Yeah.
For the last lap. Well, okay, cool, but...
And then he coasted across the line. He was out.
Well, that was what was so... and that's what I was... so, Right Front Tire and I were all in on Sunday, the greatest day in racing. And I texted him and said, I'm pretty sure that's the slowest green flag speed that's won the Indy 500 in 30 years. If I had to bet. I don't know that.
Oh, no,
but I
for
would
sure.
bet that.
For sure. It was really funny because they had the profile angle of the spotter stand, or of the flag stand. So you're looking straight at the flag stand. The stripe is right in front of you. And you see the cars that are like a lap down come by. Zoom, 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 zoom. And then you see the winner come by.
He was really doing
funny.
80 mile an hour.
No, he wasn't. It was funny. It was funny. So, no, good race.
I understand the skepticism from the folks that don't want that to be a fuel mileage race. In the end, dude's face is going to be on that silver trophy that's so damn cool.
Yep.
And
he's drinking the milk. Although he did kind of like sip at the milk. I don't know. That stuff needed to be more on top of the head.
Well, when I found out,
I think he was in shock.
Either last year or the year before that it's not buttermilk anymore. I'm like, why wouldn't you just chug that stuff?
Yeah.
If it's whole milk, I'm getting in there.
Oh, I'm
if
on
it's
barf
buttermilk, I'm not going anywhere near
whole
it.
milk right after that temperature deal and all that.
Oh, hey, you'll probably barf.
I'll barf the whole thing. Raw! But it'll make good TV. Anyway, let's. How about Charlotte? Oh, sure.
Can we talk about the Saturday before? Because that race was so good.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, it's self-evident that racing under daylight conditions is going to be better. We love night races because, I mean, we love night baseball. We love night football. We love night racing. That's the way it works. We love night soccer even. We love it just at night, something to do. Get dinner in your face, and then you get the beers going, and we got a sporting event to watch. But the bottom line is Charlotte is tough at night, and I think we saw that Sunday night with there was only one line to race in that had speed.
Well, so in Jimmy Johnson,
there's only one car that had speed.
That was the thing, and Jimmy Johnson came on, was talking after the race. And he said, so anyway, guys, before we get into all that, Truex leads 392 out of 400 laps.
98% of the
leads 588 miles, which is the most miles anyone has ever led a race, ever. I found that stat to be interesting.
Right, because there's only one track that you could potentially do that at.
Yep.
For 40 years.
Yep.
And sure enough, he did it.
Yep. One green flag pass for the lead. That was Jimmy Johnson, who I was just going to talk about here in a second. And that was for less than a lap. All the other lead changes were under caution with pit stop, cycling through. And here's a stat that I thought was really funny. And Bob Pockers posted this. For DraftKings, the fantasy site or whatever, Truex got 197 DraftKings points for that race. The next highest this year was Jimmy Johnson with 82. And the next highest after that was Kevin Harvick at 66, and nobody else has gotten over 60.
Holy bleep.
Holy bleep is right. Is right.
That was our holy bleep segment.
Yeah, I should have saved
kind of abandoned that for...
Yeah, well, I mean...
Holy shit!
Yeah.
I still got it.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
That's
197, and the next highest ever this year.
250% more.
That's insane. Anyway, Jimmy Johnson was saying that it was not so hard to pass. Like back when he was working with everybody else and all that, and trying to pass to get up to where he got to. He said it wasn't all that hard to pass. it was just impossible to pass Martin Truex Jr. He was on rails, and he had nitrous or whatever. He wasn't saying that, but he had something that didn't nobody else bring.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I'm
not implying cheating here. I'm just
no, I don't think you are either.
Exactly, the
I
right
think,
setup.
but the underlying sort of bubble commentary is Jimmy's car was so good he could pass other cars.
Mm-hmm.
Not many people could do that.
Well, there is that.
Truex was that much better.
Right.
That
just
nobody could pass him for the most part.
Well, Truex got, I say, what Truex has deserved after all this crap he's had to deal with this year in terms of, leading so many laps and then something goes wrong. I think Jeff Gluck was the one that posted it, and he said everybody was waiting on something to go wrong until it didn't.
I was going to say, what the hell would we be saying right now if it went the same way the two Kansas races, and there was one at Texas, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. Those races that he leads all these laps and doesn't win. I mean,
right.
Of course he deserved it.
Right.
To get one. I mean,
and
he's such a good person, and he's been so fast, and he's already had one of those races this year or two, I guess, that he led.
Yeah, exactly.
A significant number of laps and didn't win the race. So, I mean, you got to chalk this up as, they certainly deserve this, but we all got to go back and figure out how's somebody going to lead like 98% of a race, a mile-and-a-half race at a mile-and-a-half racetrack. That's scary.
That's weird. I don't know what the answer is, and the next Charlotte race is in the daytime, I believe. So
no, they're both at night.
Oh, is it at night too?
Unless they've changed it. They've always both been at night.
Okay. All right.
And that's, kind of what all the people are saying is, we ought to try one of these in the daytime. Did y'all see that Xfinity race? That was pretty neat.
Yeah, and did you see all the other races this year during the day? And what was it? What they moved? They moved Darlington to the day?
They moved Texas
Richmond
to the day.
Which one? Okay. Well, and then Texas was at midnight.
Texas and Richmond.
Yeah.
Because the Texas races both used to be, the spring race used to be night, and then the fall
Texas didn't
race
happen
would
until
be
like
start.
midnight or something. That thing was late.
Is that the one that got rain?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it was supposed to start at like 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah, okay.
The Richmond was the one that everybody got stirred up about how they moved it to the daytime, and everybody's like, that race was awesome.
Here's an interesting thought I saw on Turn 4. We've talked about it before, and they always ask 3 or 4 questions to a bunch of the analysts. We talked about it here last week or 2 weeks ago. But I love looking at that and then contemplating those questions in my mind and seeing what those guys have to say and everything. And the question on Turn 4, the first question was, Truex is in the chase, obviously. Is he a championship contender? Do you think he's
as fast as he's been? For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think it was a really easy question for everybody to answer.
He's the 5th Joe Gibbs car to qualify for the race chase, by the way.
And one of them said this, and I agree with it. He's probably the Joe Gibbs number 2 or 1A. I don't remember which one of the guys said it, but
it'd be hard to say that he's a better driver than Kyle. But his team is building better cars.
Yeah, if we're just talking about this year and looking at what he's doing, and that's why 1A, not even 2, but like standing next to on the podium a little bit.
I mean, now that he's got the win, what are we going to see next?
Yeah, and remember he was in...
Is he going to go out and blow up Pocono? Because he won there in the Richard Childress affiliated furniture row motorsports team last year.
Mm-hmm.
Going away.
Yep, and remember he was one of the top 4 in Miami last year. So he actually already raced for the Cup, and he's got better stuff this year. Racing Sensei Ricky Craven helped put a lot of that together. But yes, exactly.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to read that, but I certainly obviously need to go back and do so. Yeah, Martin Truex Jr. is absolutely a threat to win it all this year, and not just because he's going to qualify.
Mm-hmm. So, let's see here. That gets us to cheaters. Woo! We had some cheating at Charlotte.
Gracious.
We had some cheating at Charlotte. I'll start with Kurt Busch, and his crew chief Tony Gibson has been given a 1-week vacation based on a lug nut penalty, and he was fined $20,000. And very similarly, A.J. Allmendinger's crew chief, Randall Burnett, he gets 1 week vacation for lug nuts and fined $20,000, which I think it's really funny to me how, 4 weeks ago this was not even a violation, and 4 weeks later it's $20,000 and crew chief suspension.
Right.
Like, that's worth more than the $30,000 that Tony got for I'm trying to use safe words here. Bitching. That's what I'm looking for.
Lug nut rule.
That's what I want to say. we'll throw it out there. But yeah, he was this is even bigger than that. They've just levied out $40,000 and suspended 2 guys. It's like, this is so weird how quickly it changes like that. Not even like warnings or something, or like, all right, first time is a pass or anything. It's straight up, you gone.
I think that's a big part of why fans get so aggravated with the way the policing system works.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, look, I mean, we expect you to make mistakes, and we expect you to evolve, because racing evolves as much as any sport, probably more than any sport. I mean, of the stick and ball sports, nobody's willing to make competition rule changes during the year.
Yep.
Well, NASCAR is. I applaud them for that in a lot of ways. But what they have to be willing to figure out is how they manage it. Like, what are we doing here? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're saying we didn't care whether you hit 5 lug nuts or not. We had a competitor, a driver, bitch about it. So now, like, we're going to go, 3 steps across the other line and say, if your driver shows up on pit road after the race with less than 20 lug nuts, you're getting a week suspension. It's like, is that really what we want to do? I don't know.
I don't know what the right answer is necessarily.
I don't either.
Because you know what the teams are going to do. If they get a warning, then they're just going to figure out the exact time when they want to get that warning and then win the race and then get the hand slap and go, oh, darn, sorry. And so they're always looking for that edge. So I don't know. I've talked out of both sides of my mouth just now.
Well, I think what you're looking at is both the guys that got suspended are crew chief in cars that have no wins.
True.
So, of course, they're going to take the risk. Losing your crew chief for one race to get into the chase, yeah, that's a perfect risk.
Yeah, that's a good point, too, because they've already shown they're not going to take a win away. They didn't do it to Kyle.
NASCAR's never going to take a win away.
Do you think they'd take it away at Homestead?
Can't imagine they would.
I know.
If they did, they would set a precedent that would probably kill the sport.
Ooh, kill the sport even. Yeah, that's.
It could kill a significant fan base.
What was it, last week or 2 weeks ago? And said, what if this happens in Miami? And it's just like, well, I think that NASCAR official has to just go, yeah, it's good. It's good. Screw it. It's fine. Because,
I'd love to ask that question to Steve O'Donnell or whoever else is doing the competition stuff. I can't remember because they don't keep them hidden, but it's hard to find out who they are. That's the question that somebody needs to ask. I would hope that somebody like Jeff Gluck or Nate Ryan would ask that question, but they would do it at risk of their hard card.
Mm-hmm.
Because NASCAR didn't want to answer that question.
Right. Well, and I guess they don't have to answer the question until Miami to anybody, but they might want to think about it by the time Miami rolls around.
Well, what they've proven to us, for those that are paying attention and have half a brain, is that they're willing to make half-cocked decisions without thinking about collateral damage and future consequence.
Well, that is...
And so they deserve ridicule for doing that.
Mm-hmm. And loving ridicule. We love the sport. We just want it to be
I watch all of it.
Consistent. So that brings us to our biggest cheater of the week. You want to talk about him, Sherwin?
Brian Patty.
Hello, crew
Greg
chief.
Biffle's crew chief.
For Greg
Whatever goofball stuff they were playing with suspension and body mounts, they got dinged big time. Brian's going to get to sit this week and next week because when their car showed up at R&D, the body wasn't sitting straight on the chassis. NASCAR doesn't take too kindly to that.
Illegal body measurements. It didn't pass the laser, and I think it didn't pass the laser by like a bunch of laser.
Well, it passed the laser going in, but what they did was they designed parts to fail
Just like Casey did
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago.
And
got docked 15-something point.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And so NASCAR's already kind of said, look what we did with the 5, and we did this with Kyle Busch too, is we don't want you designing parts to fail that are going to cause the body to not sit straight on the chassis.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't do that. And there was 2 or 3 weeks in a row where we, did the minimum or, like a P2 or a P3 penalty. Casey got the P3,
yep.
15 points. That was supposed to serve as the warning to not do that anymore.
Right.
And Brian Patty decided Greg Biffle needed a good enough finish that they were going to break that rule. He had a decent finish for them. I think all Roush was in the top 10 for the first time in 3 years.
Yeah, I was just thinking wow, I'll hold my tongue, but Roush hasn't been exactly on the radar for a while.
No, not contending for wins. So that you understand. Brian Patty is very respected in the garage as being a genius crew chief. Mm-hmm. I can't remember who he was chiefing, but I read some stuff from somebody in the know that said if Patty hadn't left that team, there would be a different respect for that driver than there is because he's so good at cars.
Yeah.
I think it was Montoya.
Okay.
I think when they took Patty or they fired Patty away from Montoya, they didn't figure the car out anymore after that or something to that effect.
Well, and it also cost him a $50,000 bill if he's got one of them laying around.
That's a big one. They used to make that one. I think Rutherford B. Hayes was on it or something.
Well, that's cool.
I'm totally making that up.
Well, I would have believed you. $50,000 bill. Heck with it. Why not?
They did make one. I can't remember who was on it.
Like one of those one-time only things. So that gets us through Charlotte. Anything else from Charlotte? I didn't have nothing.
Nothing that
just notes on the fly
except
here.
For everybody that knows racing and loves Charlotte said that we got to have a day race there for points to see what that does.
Yeah, as you saw earlier, it surprised me that both of them are at night. I thought, wait, they're both at? Yeah, I guess they are both at night. I didn't think about that.
Yep.
But why? Yeah, why run that track at night every time, especially right now? Anyway, so I bet they're going to make some sort of. Well, they've already announced a schedule next year.
Well, the fall one makes sense because they're going up against college football versus trying to go up against the NFL, and one's a little bit easier audience to compete with, especially since local Charlotte doesn't have a football team, but on Saturday night.
Yep.
But either way, we've talked ad nauseum about how we think NASCAR should try to compete less in the fall because football is so entrenched.
Yeah. Yep. We have talked ad nauseum. Let's talk about the Hall of Fame. So we had our inductees.
Had a couple of owners. We had a driver that you and I have a lot of favor for and very much appreciative of.
Sure thing. Our 5 were starting Benny Parsons, old BP.
He was in the booth when we started watching racing.
I was about to say, I only know him really from in the booth, NBC, doing his thing. Very surprising. I guess I don't remember if it was surprising to everybody else. I remember that saying that he'd pass away or whatever. It was during the off season, and I went, "Whoa, you mean BP, like the guy who's just in the booth every week?" And now he passed away. That was back in 2007, I think, and Twitter hadn't existed yet. And
nope.
So it was like, oh, was he like not in a good way, or was he? What was going on? He was only 65. He was, all that. So yeah, that was kind of a bummer when he passed. So, but yeah, he got in. Next one, Rick Hendrick. That was just a matter of time for Hendrick.
Yeah, I think with owners, my feeling is with a competitor, he shouldn't go in while he's still a competitor.
For sure.
And that's the whole thing.
They're not going to do that yet.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing for me against putting Jeff Gordon in the next year.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. Rick Hendrick, okay, so the body of work suggests that's probably a good idea.
Well, and he's not
for
going to
sure go get him in before he's not around anymore. Now,
right.
He's
that's what I was going to say. He's going to be competing until the day he dies in terms of ownership.
Right. So there's no retirement for an owner. Mm-hmm. And you're as good as his, you're always going to be linked to it in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And I think the same is true for Richard Childress.
Sure.
So at some point you got to just get them in.
Yep.
Because they deserve to be in.
Yep.
I think that's one of the things that's really weird about NASCAR and probably some of the the other sports will say, "Oh, these guys can compete forever," and it's like, okay, well, I mean, hold on here. Just because it's a little bit different doesn't mean we have to follow all the same rules as the stick and ball sports.
Mm-hmm.
Thing we'd also have to understand is the stick and ball sports Hall of Fames have been around on average about 50 years longer.
Sure.
And so they have 50 years on us. And so that's why Mark Martin's comments on Nate Ryan's podcast were so important to me in terms of delivering a message. Is he's like, we're not like what we're doing now with the Hall of Fame. It doesn't matter nearly as much now as it does for 50 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
He said because 50 years from now, nobody is going to be around to tell the story of how NASCAR started.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like that Ken Burns kind of thing. It's like Ken Burns is just old enough that he has attachment to what happened to baseball in the 1900s, in the teens and the 20s. Like he was able to do that series that was like so compelling. I don't know how much that relates to the Baseball Hall of Fame, but we need that for NASCAR.
Yeah.
Because somebody's going to be our Ken Burns.
Yep, exactly. And you mentioned Richard Childress is in. Mark Martin, who you already said was in. Here's the interesting, that gives us a precedent, by the way. Mark Martin retired in 2013, 2016, 3 years later, he's in. So I think that's a precedent that you might see with Jeff Gordon in another couple of years.
And I think that's a precedent I didn't necessarily want to be sent. And, even though I have a ton of respect for Mark Martin, I think he should be a Hall of Famer. I think it should be a 5-year wait, just like it is the stick and ball sports.
Well,
but I don't know what the history of the other Hall of Fames are in terms of when they decided, okay, when is 5 years the precedent?
Mm-hmm.
In NASCAR, you have to be careful because 5 years after being 30 is a lot different between being 5 years after 55.
True.
Or 65.
Or 65.
Or 70.
Or 75.
And
interesting, I didn't know this. I didn't know it till I started writing more about Mark Martin over the last week, that he hasn't been to a race since retiring until he came to Charlotte this last week. And I think they said he just kind of came and did some Hall of Fame stuff and left before the race even started. I thought that was very strange.
I thought,
but
so you didn't have...
He also explained it. Yeah, I mean, he talked about it.
Yeah.
And so then that cleared it up a bit.
I started to understand it from the perspective of he never... Going to a NASCAR racetrack was never entertainment for Mark Martin.
That's, yeah. Yep.
And so to try to figure out how to make it entertainment and not interfere with what he perceived was sort of an aura of competition within the garage, I think I can try to understand that.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, well, what? I mean, I can't walk over to this team and BS and then walk over to this other team and BS and walk over to this other team and BS and not have the fear that somebody's going to think I'm just passing secrets. I'm just here to pass secrets.
Yeah,
I'm getting
secrets
paid to pass secrets.
Yeah.
And I never thought about that, but I don't mind that his sort of hardliner approach to saying NASCAR entertainment for me is sitting in my bus traveling or sitting in my home in Batesville, Arkansas and watching it on the television.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, that's he all but said that's how I separate having used to compete in the sport to being a fan of the sport.
Uh-huh. Yeah, like I said, I didn't know that till then. That was interesting to me.
I didn't either. I learned a lot.
Our fifth inductee, Raymond Parks, one of the early bankrollers of NASCAR back in the early days. I don't know much about him.
I don't know squat about him.
So
I heard the name, but that's it.
Yeah, and I wrote that note down because I was like, I'm going to forget if I don't put it. But everybody who has written an article or has said anything said, there's a few linchpin guys back in the day, or a few, whatever you want to call it. I'll say linchpin guys who, if this guy wasn't there, NASCAR would not exist or wouldn't exist in the form that it has become or whatever. I mean, there's certainly a lot of butterfly effect guys along the way that, maybe it would have changed this way or that way. But this guy would have been NASCAR as it is today. The France family probably wouldn't have had it. Something wouldn't have happened if it weren't for this guy bankrolling NASCAR in the early days. So thank you, Raymond Parks, I guess. So, it's good to have people like that in the hall. That that stuff is really interesting to me to see, and to have that history of too.
Yeah, I mean those are your James Naismith and Red Auerbach and those kind of type folk in the Hall of Fame. As I mean, maybe they competed at some point, but they were instrumental in the sport being created. And like now we have structure, we have a sport. Let's figure out how we operate in the confines of having a sport. And NASCAR was the latest great American sport to be sort of kicked off in a lot of ways. And so it's the youngest. And so there's a lot of evolution that still needs to take place before it becomes, I mean, I don't know that it'll ever be baseball or NBA or football, but it certainly has its place.
Sure. So let's speculate some. How about next year? Who do you think's in the running? Who do you think is a good for Hall of Fame? Any thoughts?
I'd have to have a list. I mean,
I know, right?
I think Rusty Wallace has got to be getting close to being on a list.
I was thinking that. I was thinking Rusty. Is Dale Jarrett in yet? Would he be?
Dale Jarrett won 2 500s and 23 races, I think.
Okay.
I think, and a championship.
Yep.
So I would think he's absolutely on.
I mean, if Rusty's in, Dale Jarrett's in.
Yes.
And if Dale Jarrett's in, Rusty's in, kind of. I mean, they have.
Yeah, well, Rusty won a lot more races.
A lot of wins.
But didn't win. Sure. He did win the championship with the 27 Kodiak team before he went to Penske, but he doesn't have the 2 500s.
True.
Which NASCAR folk, particularly the ones that are voting, value quite a bit. That's why I've always said, once Junior got past 25 wins with 2 500s, he is a Hall of Famer.
That's enough. Yeah.
Because we value the 500 that way.
Mm-hmm.
You and I maybe personally don't, because we see plate racing as a little bit of a gimmick. But if you're going to call it the Super Bowl in motorsports, you have to respect it.
Yeah. And Junior, I mean, Junior's one of those change the sport kind of people too. I mean, the 8 and then the 88, the amount of fans and all that he has, I think changed the face of, I would say, like the way that merchandise has been sold. It's not just T-shirts and whatever, T-shirts and hats. I think he helped open up a whole new line of everything branded.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the guys that broke in and really drove like the truck window sticker mold, if you will, were Dale Earnhardt and Dale Jarrett.
Sure.
So you had the Calvin and Hobbes pissing on the Chevy symbol, or it was pissing on the Ford Oval.
Yeah.
You never saw Calvin pissing on a Pontiac. You certainly never saw him pissing on a Dodge. It's such a narrow window in the modern age, but Dale Jr. certainly changed what merchandising can be by putting it on absolutely everything and selling it ad nauseum,
right?
Depending on who you are.
And then there's that commercial with him and Chase Elliott where they're going over Chase Elliott's new.
Oh, that was hilarious!
Yeah, all his new merchandise, and he's like, "That's a blow up doll." No, it's action doll. Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah, you got your own garden gnome. Like what?
That's funny. Let's go to Pocono.
Chase Elliott action figure. That's a blow up doll.
Yeah, that's a blow up doll. Let's go to Pocono. It's
we love Pocono.
Love the Tricky Triangle. It's high up on the list. Deputy Hines, shout out to Deputy Hines in the PETM Posse. Been with us for a long time, and he's up there in the Pocono. Well, close enough to the Pocono region. He'll be at the race.
He said if we flew in to Scranton Wilkes Bar, that he'd pick us up and get us to the track.
Well, hello.
Good. That's a good man.
That's a fella
and
right
somebody
there.
We may take a favor up on.
That's for sure. And we'll run out of favors pretty quick on people. I know that. But we'll always take the first one, absolutely. And this Pocono is the first Xfinity race at Pocono ever, huh?
First ever. I screwed up on the old tweeter because I misread Pennsylvania for Pocono. They used to race at Nazareth, which isn't all that far from Philadelphia and Scranton and Pocono. But yeah, this is the very first Xfinity race at Pocono ever.
That's really cool.
So that's fun.
Yeah, so might as well. And they let him put GoPro cameras all up in the cars during practice today.
I only got to see one so far. It was Ryan Reese, and it was really – or Ryan Priest. Did I say that? I think I said it wrong. I think it's Ryan Priest. It was really cool because you get there's just enough volume, so you hear when he's like wide open, of course, down the front straightaway, which is absurd, 3,600 feet long or whatever it is. And then you got to get woed up and go 270 degrees in the other direction.
Yeah.
It was really neat to hear the throttle traces and hear, and watch what they're doing with their, like you kind of see his hands, but it was really pointed out like the passenger window because they wanted to see like what are the marks, where should I lift and brake and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And what spot on the wall do I need to look at and go, okay, now it's time to lift, now it's time to brake, now it's time to get off the brake and back to the gas and all that really cool stuff.
Yeah. So that'll be neat to see. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. I think that gets us to picks, doesn't it? You know what we have to play for picks.
Yeah, we do.
Here it comes. Might have been a little low on the play there, but our favorite of all time, Command, he's back because I don't think we had him last week, so he's back with us. Let's see. Picks. Let me see. Who did I pick last week for Charlotte? Did I pick Harvick? Question mark? I don't even remember, man.
I don't remember either.
It's been a while.
To be honest with you.
Yeah. We're going to have to just write these down one day. I think I had them written down. Now I always just delete it.
I don't write them down, and I haven't listened recently enough to last week's to remember.
Yeah. So, here we go. You go ahead.
You going to let me go?
Yeah, why not?
All right, Pocono, somebody that needs to win to get in the chase and get that momentum and confidence built back up, somebody who swept Pocono 2 years ago. So maybe this is picking under caution right front tire, but I'm going with Ralph Dale Earnhardt Jr.
I don't think that's picking under caution at all. This is another one. There's so many names, and if you look at all the past winners and stuff, there's not like a Jimmy Johnson at Charlotte or a Jimmy Johnson.
There's
at,
nobody with
Dover
like 9 wins. It's all like, I got
it's
the
just
2.
Random, and it's not like Hendrick or Gibbs. I mean, it's random almost.
Nope.
So it's a grab bag right now. My pick. You've already unintentionally burned it. But so far this year, we've had Kyle do a back-to-back, Carl do a back-to-back. I'm calling a back-to-back for a repeat of what we'll call the first racer. We'll call it the spring race, even though we're going back to Pocono in like 3 weeks. But Martin Truex Jr.
I like that pick. I like that pick a lot. I struggled mightily in the back of my brain from stealing that pick. But I'm going to continue to do what I do, whether it's picking under caution or not, but my rookie slash what's the word? Dark horse pick is going to be Chase Elliott.
I mean, obviously a good pick. Here, I'm going to go something completely different for Dark Horse, and this is only just to be fun, a fun little stat here or whatever. So the last 5 winners, because I was doing my little research earlier, and the last 5 winners were Martin Truex Jr., Dale Jr., Jimmy Johnson, Logano, and Gordon. That means it was a Junior, Jimmy, Joey, Jeff. Okay? So I'm picking...
You need a J.
Jamie. That's my dark horse. Jamie Mack.
Jamie Mack.
Yes, sir. So
I like the reasoning behind it. That's kind of fun.
Alliteration for Junior, Jimmy, Joey, Jeff, Jamie. So that would round it out pretty well. Getting some attention there on Periscope. Y'all remember to follow us on Periscope if you're there. So let's see. I think that rounds it out, man.
It's pretty close.
Pretty close.
Close.
I've had a blast. Our birthday episode, Insanity.
PETM podcast birthday episode, y'all.
Birthday. It's been an awesome birthday, and I hope everybody has enjoyed the celebration of the PETM number 51. But once again, our birthday, it's time to stuff our mouths.
Are we doing the jelly bean closeout challenge?
Oh, especially on our birthday. Oh, there's only so many. think so.
I can't believe them airplane bottles will last.
That's true.
Uh-oh.
They're going to go there, goes your hat. Listen, y'all.
We'll get that back on real quick here. There we go.
We always end with a mouthful of jelly beans here, flavored like beer.
Yeah, we like to end this deal here with a mouthful of beer-flavored jelly beans because them jelly beans are good as well.
Get your sticker, y'all.
Yeah, get your sticker.
If you're new, listen to us. Free sticker. Just DM us, email us, do whatever. On Twitter
at PETM Podcast. Send a DM with your address in there, and I will mail that son of a gun right back out to you.
Yes, sir.
There's this one right here. You gotta watch. Well, I'm pointing. You have to be on the Periscope. No, it's one of those destination like white oval stickers, like you see Hilton Head and Outer Banks and whatever those buttholes up north are.
But follow us at PETM Podcast. We already said. And you can go on the website, PETMpodcast.com, listen to all the latest episodes, catch up on the old ones. We're on iTunes, we're on Google Play, we're on YouTube, we're on your Pocket Cast.
We're all up in some freaking YouTube.
Yeah, if y'all just look around, you're going to find us. I'm Tailgate Mayor at Tailgate Mayor.
And I am Andrew Sherwin, pregame engineer at pregame ENG.
And we're going to talk to y'all next week. Happy birthday. Thank you, PETM Posse, for sticking with us for a year.
Thumbs up.